Hi everybody, welcome to Amy Lou Presents. So I want to talk about this huge story of the United Airlines passenger being forcibly removed from his seat that made international headlines. Basically, the CEO of United Airlines initially did not apologize, but rather apologize to the passenger, but rather he apologized for having to reaccommodate the passengers. Reaccommodate. I think that's going to be the word of the year. Finally, 2 days later, he issued a sincere apology. And it's going to be, I don't know, the damage has been done. And this is after just plummeting in the stock market. And I don't know if it's a sincere apology or if it's, just doing just PR damage control. And it really angered me that he initially blamed the victim and kind of wanted to shift blame to anyone else besides the company rather than accept responsibility as a company. And I think eventually he got to that point, but initially he didn't. He called the passenger belligerent, and he ran back into the aircraft in defiance. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So here's a brief backstory if you haven't seen it already all across the internet. United Airlines had overbooked their flight and asked volunteers to give up their seats, but there were no takers. So I think they raised it up to 400 and then nobody wanted to volunteer. And then they raised it up again to 800, but nobody wanted to volunteer. Federal law says that you could raise it up to 1,350, but they did not do that in this case. So the airline claims to have randomly selected passengers to involuntarily give up their seats. And it turns out that the airline was not overbooked, but rather those 4 seats had to be given to United Airlines employees. Dr. Dow stayed behind because he said that he needed to see patients in the morning, the next morning. So he refused to leave and he didn't want to. He said he had to see patients in the morning. And so they then called Chicago Department of Aviation security officers to forcefully remove him from his seat. And basically what had happened was they just jostled him out of his seat, and then in the process his glasses were knocked off to the bottom of his face, and then he was bleeding from the mouth, and then they just physically dragged him down the aisle. And other passengers were just horrified. This one lady was like, "Oh my gosh, what did you do to him?" And then Dr. Dow was found later in the aircraft just clutching on to curtains saying, "Just kill me, just kill me." Now there's also this whole confusion about his past history of prescribing painkillers for a male patient in exchange for sex, and also having his medical license revoked in 2005, but then returned in 2015. I just want to say that his whole history has nothing to do with him being brutally dragged down the aisle of an aircraft. Some reports are saying that's true, some reports are saying that's false, but the LA Times did say that was true in the end. But regardless of that, it has nothing to do with the way he was treated in the aircraft. Nobody should be subjected to that kind of indignation, humiliation, being dragged down that aisle like that, like a slaughtered animal. So Amy Lou Presents will continue to follow this story. So follow me at Amy Lou Media. That's at Amy Lou Media for the latest updates on social media. and my website, www.amyliu.com, and also subscribe at youtube.com/amyliumedia for the latest updates. Thank you so much.